in, y'all. The table is officially shook. The table is officially shook. But wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. Come on in, guys. Share the live. I should be live on YouTube and Facebook, which is always sketchy, of course, because I'm shadow banned on both. I'm probably going to start back going live on TikTok. Shook the table a little bit. Well, there's a lot of questions being asked. I have been getting text messages all day long, and I'm actually excited to open this maritime conversation up. We're going to open it up a little bit more today. Share the live. Share the live. If you are on Twitter in particular, please copy the link, share the link to Twitter, copy the link, share the link to a random person via text message. And this is a nice clean show. It's still daylight outside. I don't get raunchy until the nighttime, so you have no worries. Also, the show is going to be a little bit interactive because I'm going to ask a question about Negro spirituals here in a minute. So if you got a grandma, an old auntie, if your mother is older, you may want to get her on the line for a cash prize here in a moment. Share the live. I'm going to give everybody time to load in. So on yesterday, we briefly discussed Prince Hall and Black American men as it relates to the Revolutionary War. I want to further bring to you guys' attention, as just a sidebar from yesterday, the Declaration of Independence was written on July 4th, 1776. By July 3rd, Prince Hall was made a master on a vessel. This Boston Harbor area was Britain's last stronghold. If we can just think about it from there, okay? Britain's last stronghold. Prince Hall and 14 other Negro colored freemen entered into this Boston Harbor area and were trained. Then Prince Hall was made master of the vessel, control all the sails and all that stuff, working directly, as like a lieutenant. This is a military position. His lodge, the African Lodge, was a military lodge. He was trained at a military lodge. And I think the entire story of Prince Hall is missing the military element. Even some organizations in the Divine Nine that was labeled evil for being connected to PHA Masonry is also missing the military aspect. Now, I kind of soft launched that when I showed you all the picture of Apollo being a full Black man. The statue was found during World War I. Full tall Black man with cornrows. Nah. We're going to park that there. Share the live, guys. This is an interactive show. I want to ask a question before I start sharing things with y'all. This is going to be a short show because, of course, I'm going live every day. So I want to make these lives short. Hey, guys. Hey, y'all. Come on in. Name some Negro spirituals that include light, lighthouse, boat, or ship. Name some Negro spirituals. Put it in the chat. The best answer wins a cash prize. Name some Negro spirituals that includes light, lighthouse, boat, or ship. That's your task as I continue this journey into the maritime industry. Now, what most people have not sorted out, because dark-skinned indigenous people were labeled as savages instead of astute business people who just got their lands taken by force by all of the world, the entire world. People aren't taking into considerations that some tribes were strictly maritime. Yes, come on in, guys. Some tribes were strictly maritime. To be noted, the Shawmut tribe, which is, they were there before the place was ever called Boston. Massachusetts is a tribe, a huge maritime tribe. Misham, Mishwum. Nonatum, Nonaantum. All of these and a host of others along the Massachusetts Bay, Boston Harbor, Charles River, Mystic River, all of these tribes were considered maritime tribes. And it's just so many along the eastern seaboard that were maritime tribe that were missing, even down to the Catawba. Some tribes did not have inland empires. Some tribes were coastal empires. By empire, I mean some tribes made canoes and small speed boats that were used for military reconnaissance. This is during the 1600s. This is during the Indian Wars that small boats were used along the coastline and into waterways closer to the coast in these maritime tribes for military reconnaissance. There was some like tidal canoes that looked like speedboats that were, I don't know how they were made speedboats. I guess if you consider some of the tribes having these really quick warriors, fast warriors, kind of like the Swift Creek were known for being so fast. I guess that's what would make them similar to speedboats. I'm still trying to unpack that because motors weren't made during that era. So they had to be using some kind of steam power in these small vessels in order to get them to move fast, which to me is interesting. The Micmac tribe, the Wampanoag, the Narragansett, the Lenape, and then there was a tribe, the Calusa. All of these tribes were maritime tribes. And now that you know some tribes were maritime tribes, now you can also think about the tribes that were agriculture. But this is not what this is about. The maritime tribes, some of them, I know the Calusa did not work with agriculture tribes, but some of the tribes work directly with the tribes that were agricultural based in order to get their products or whatever they were farming to the coast. Now, to the coast in order to be sold out into the global market. If we keep calling Indians savages instead of exploring this, if we keep thinking that these Russian Eskimos are the ones who were doing this operation, then we miss the whole bigger picture of how America was taken. For instance, here's a map. I want to show you guys a map of just that Delaware region. Not Delaware region. Well, yeah. Well, Boston, the Boston Harbor. And you can see how extensive this network of islands and all of this. This was so-called the British stronghold. The last men who entered this area was Prince Hall and the 14 men. Before the one day after he took over that boat, the Declaration of Independence was written. I just want to hammer this in, and I wish I can enlarge this a bit because you see that red line down my screen. That would be US Highway 1, and if you're an OG on my channel, you remember me discussing US Highway 1. I also want to for you all to take into consideration, while we had these maritime tribes, there's something that's missing. There's something that's missing. Not that. These Lighthouse. There were over 300 lighthouse and beacon spots in America during this era of the Revolutionary War. And it just so happened the men controlling these lighthouses were Black American, dark-skinned Negro, freemen men, and privateers who were also considered dark-skinned Indians. So now we have this situation where there are military records that substantiate this claim. But this part was kind of written out of history. When we celebrate the Revolutionary War, these men, these tribal men who were already here operating the houses for a long time before we were overtaken, are not mentioned. We just see these Revolutionary War reenactments with white men holding a musket. The closest thing that they say is a Black man was the first to die during the Revolutionary War. But what else? How were you even able to get this close to us? You had to take over the lighthouses first. And now we have an order of operation. Mind you, this is not one country that's doing this to us. This is a multitude of countries. And we had lighthouses being operated by Black American men all the way up and down US Highway 1, which is also called Kings Road. This road stretches from Nova Scotia all the way down to the Florida Keys. You can literally drive this road today the entire way. I've drove a lot of it just for the sake of research. You can literally look at the lighthouses along the way. The lighthouses stretch all the way down to Puerto Rico that worked in tandem. And this is a huge coastal operation that was manned by dark-skinned, freemen, Black American men, whatever you want to call us today, since the beginning of time, or however long. Now, this is not even taking into consideration the ones that were torn down and burned. It's also not taking into consideration the tribes and beacon houses that are inland that are now kind of covered by jails and prisons. You see the lighthouse, but you don't see it. Wherever you see a lighthouse, it is an eye shot of a water source where agricultural tribes are working directly with the maritime tribes to move merchandise, to move products. The industry was taken, but the last name still remains with Black American families. And what also remains are Negro spirituals. I asked you guys a few minutes ago to name a Negro spiritual that mentions lighthouses, light, boats, ships. You'd be surprised to know that some of these call and response songs are very old military songs. And I don't mean very old military songs from Britain. Because if they were very old military songs from Britain, they will not be labeled Negro spirituals today. They would be labeled something else. Now, that was not supposed to survive, but it did. I want to show you guys another tie-in here. Another very important tie in here. Click like, continue to share the live. Continue to share the live. Please click like, continue to share the live as we surgically go through history. I want to show you guys a little video that ties all of this together. But before I do this, I want to show y'all also what happened to the Lighthouse record. We have a lot of stuff to get into in a small amount of time. So we're trying to kind of rush here. Let me share my screen here so that you could see this. I don't know if I showed this before, but there's a file set of these old Coast Guard records. He's very old, as you can see, Major Corps of Engineers USA Lighthouse Engineer. This is from the 1800s. This is from the 1800s, U.S. Office of U.S. Lighthouse Engineer. And I'm just showing you guys this so that you'll know if it became it was an official military operation since the beginning of time that was slowly phased out in order for it to be forgotten about. Now, as you can see, the corners of these records look burned here. They look very burned, very much burnt. Okay? Very much burnt. But this is an entire file set of surviving records. This one's Detroit, Michigan, 9th and 11th District. Very much burnt. Very much burnt. This is what happened to that file set. Now, these files burned along with the 1890 census. It wasn't just census records that burned. Now, it also should be noted that those 1890 census records burned. They contained a very interesting file set. During the 1890 census, families were listing their Indian name and their English name. So the families that were newly coming from tribes after the Civil War, which made them birthright citizens, they had two names. Some names that they used with tribes. A lot of these people were military, like in the Maritime tribes. Even the agriculture tribes had militaries. So we still kind of use that in the military today, in American military today. Sometimes people have these dog tags with their military name on it. You can kind of look at it from that standpoint. Or your family name, your family nickname. You can look at it from that standpoint too. The census had two names on them for families. And then we phased out of that and we had to burn those records because Negroes or Indians at that point. They were just either taxed or not taxed. And this file set that was burned showed the Indians who were taxed and not taxed. If they were not taxed, they were considered Indians. If they were taxed, they were considered Negroes. And it was burned. So we want to take all of these things into consideration. Please click like in here. Share the live, guys. I'm going to start coming on here if we can't get no crowd. Promise you that. Promise you that. Hey, y'all. Share the live. Yes, they burned the files. And by burning the files, you take the black men off the record. And I keep saying black American men because I'm going to show you something that you may have forgotten. And it's related to Tulsa, Oklahoma. During what they call race war in Tulsa, there were men that were on the ground fighting. And I want to show y'all this video that was put together by, I think, PBS a while ago. It wasn't really made public because it was kind of embedded in a article. But it's a video about Tulsa. I'm about to show it here. Here, so you can.
Between the 1870s and the beginning of World War I, black pioneers settled more than 100.
Can you all hear it? I want to make sure you guys can hear it. Click like in here. Put some fire emojis in the chat if you guys can hear it. I want to make sure you guys...
100 all-black towns.
Can y'all hear it? This is a really good video about Tulsa. It's very short. I only want you to pay attention to something very minute here in this video so that I can break something down as it relates to the maritime industry. Y'all can hear it? Wait, y'all can hear it? Let me look at the chat. Put some fire emojis in the chat if y'all can hear it. I can't. Let me know if you guys can hear it. My chat is going super slow. Okay, y'all put some people put Negro spirits. Okay, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, y'all can hear. Okay.
Each with the goal of economic independence.
Hold on. Let me go back.
Black pioneers settled more than 100 all-black towns in the West, each with the goal of economic independence. Among the most well-known was a black district in Tulsa, Oklahoma, known by its residents as Greenwood.
If we were to go back in time to 1920 and walk up and down Greenwood Avenue, one thing that would probably strike us is the absolute variety of businesses. The numbers are astonishing. 30 restaurants, 45 groceries and meat markets. There were dry goods stores, milliners, photography studio, dental offices. Greenwood is no longer called Greenwood. It's now known as Black Wall Street.
This whole idea of self-containment really existed there. The dollar would stay in that community sometimes over 3-5 years before it ever went outside of the community.
In 1919, black soldiers returned from World War I with high expectations for racial progress at home. But in one city after another, white mobs erupted in violence, targeting black veterans, citizens, and businesses. Hundreds died. On Tulsa's Black Wall Street, African Americans, including armed veterans, watched nervously and prepared for what might come.
Countering this white militancy is very much an African American spirit of we're going to defend ourselves. If the mob comes, we're not going to run. We've got our guns and we're going to protect ourselves. And that was especially important and valuable and potent in Greenwood.
On May 30th, 1921, the mob came to Greenwood.
This white woman is in an elevator and this black teenager allegedly whistles at her or talks to her. He is taken to jail. A mob gathers of whites and blacks, and blacks in Tulsa are armed. They take their Second Amendment rights seriously, and they come with guns. And this is a threat. Someone fires into the crowd, and the riot is born. This was not about the whistling boy in the elevator. This was about blacks becoming too economically powerful and showing that wealth in a way that anyone would by creating buildings and constructing churches and having property.
There was a whistle that blew, and then the mass invasion and the destruction of Greenwood began.
Mass invasion.
When the smoke cleared in the early morning of June 1st, 1921, Black Wall Street lay in ruins.
This is by far the largest single incident of racial violence in all of American history.
Now, click like, share the live, because I want to bring something to you guys' attention. There was a Masonic Hall in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was owned by O.W. Gurley. O.W. Gurley was the oil tycoon, the Black American Indian oil tycoon who owned a lot of Tulsa. The Masonic Lodge that was in Tulsa was a military Masonic lodge. So veterans were able to organize very quickly during an attack. The United States Army knew that they were not going to be able to beat these men on foot because they also had men on foot with machine guns. The Black American men in Tulsa also had machine guns. So it was a war for war between military men. Because they couldn't beat them on foot, then the 45th Infantry was called in to drop bombs. Now, this is all documented by a local baseball team, an all-black baseball team who was in Tulsa hiding in the stadium there as this was popping off. This baseball team was about to play a game, and it just so happened the riot and all of this stuff broke out. If it were not for this all-black Negro baseball team, because during this time was the Negro Leagues, if it wasn't for the Negro Leagues, a lot of this stuff would not have been documented. The Negro Leagues documented that these were Black veterans that were being targeted. The Negro Leagues put out that the 45th Infantry bombed Tulsa. They saw the planes. They saw the markings on the planes. They knew exactly that the planes were military planes dropping bombs. These were not the little cocktail little bombs that you throw in the window, because that's what the white people put out. The white people put out, oh, there was Molotov cocktails. And the Black men put out, no, these were military bombs that was dropped out of the sky. Now, if I can find this information as a part-time researcher, everybody that has ever tried to get reparations for the families of Tulsa whose lives were upended, whose lives were destroyed, whose generational wealth was cut in half, could also get the information. This is very important, because that military that was there in Tulsa on the ground, operating out of the Masonic Military Lodge, were also veterans. Not just any veterans. A lot of them were Marines. Why is this important? We were still in the maritime industry. After Tulsa was bombed, there was a fleet of boats that was given away to Great Britain. After Tulsa was bombed, the oil industry was overtaken, because Tulsa was the capital of the oil industry, in the capital of the world. You had some of the toughest military men there. Not just a part of the Masonic Lodge, military Masonic Lodge, but just in general. Because again, it was the oil capital of the world. Once you got these men out the way, now you can have the oil industry. So from the 1600s on down, you had to first take the Black men out of the lighthouses. You had to get hundreds of tribes that were maritime-based tribes off of the water. You had to bomb Tulsa. And from 1776 all the way up into World War I, you succeeded. Took you a long time. But for some reason, when we ask for reparation and restitution, when we talk about our contributions to this nation, when we discuss that we built this nation, people think it's a game. We don't mean building it by building a house. No, we mean building it by building industries. There will be no railroad industry. There will be no oil industry. The maritime industry was built and copied. The model was copied. The same way y'all copy our style, the same way y'all copy our 8-count dance routines, the same way you copy everything we do, everything we say, the industries were also copied. It was Black soldiers who taught the Iraqis how to frack for oil. That's well documented. However, what's not well documented is that the Black soldiers, the Black veterans in Tulsa, was strategically bombed in order to, not just in order to get them out the way, but in order to leave a message that if any Black uprising happened, that if any of you want to try it, it doesn't matter if you are a soldier, it doesn't matter if you are a Black veteran, we will bomb you. We will get you gone, come hell or high water. And we will hide this by way of various conferences like the G7, like the Geneva conferences, all these conferences that Black Americans, coloreds, darkies here in America aren't invited to. The transcripts are never made public. So we don't know what they're talking about. We don't know what their plan is to keep these industries and keep this history hidden. But what we do know is there was a lot of money put up. And so when you see elders, or when you hear elders saying that we had Indian in our family and they're just trying to brush it off, or when you hear a whole generation of Black Americans, Negroes, coloreds that went silent, we call them the silent generation. It's for a reason. They saw what happened. They knew that if an uprising happened, then one group had a way to bomb them. It was beyond creating sundown towns using the military. Because these wasn't just random white men using the military. It was beyond that. It was the fact that they had the nerve to bomb them. So now, the mentality of those elders were, if I don't get down, they're going to lay us down. Because they're now lynching veterans. They're lynching the men who protect our community. And they're making it public. And 2 generations from now, we're not going to know the man swinging from a tree fought for the country. But the people of that era knew. So can you imagine how afraid you've now made the indigenous population? So what do they do? What are they to do? What are they to do? So it looked like there was a period where Black Americans were just getting beat up. It looked like they were just getting beat up. And there's a reason for that. How can you fight back when the warriors in your community, now you get to see them be lynched? And it's not an equal fight. It's not a one-on-one. The people who were lynching the Black men in America, it's reported. I know in the incident in Texas, they were lynched by military police. So they're being chased all around. The warriors are being chased all around America by groups of people. It's one versus a group of men. A group. So I also want to bring to your consideration that this book also talks about oil. And this is from 1832. So the oil industry was not new to American Indians by no stretch of the imagination. These men were using oil as a slick to move boats on the water, and various other things that they was using oil for. So the operation to take the maritime industry was vast. Once you take that industry, you got it. You got everything. You got everything. I will also have you to know that prior to that bombing in World War I, we still had men studying the maritime industry at HBCUs. As you can see here in this picture. So it's not just like they were just random. No, they were literally still studying the maritime industry at multiple HBCUs. There was not, all HBCUs wasn't just agriculture and mechanical. Some had really extensive maritime industries. I know even Savannah State probably still have maritime today. You had maritime strongholds at HBCUs all up and down the coastline till after the World Wars, when we were pushed out of the industry altogether. And then the Navy would be created, and they would bring some of those men back who were just amazing Marines. When the Marines controlled the maritime industry, amazing Marines, they will bring them back as mess hall workers in the newly formed Navy. So restitution and reparations is not just a slavery-based thing. This is an industry-based grievance. This is an industry redress grievance. Redress grievance. Redress. It's industry-based. That's the point I'm trying to make by going live every day this week to discuss the Revolutionary War, because I'm surprised there isn't more content put out concerning Black soldiers and their impact in the Revolutionary War. I don't want to see muskets of white men. You are the ones who colonized the whole thing with your friends, your cronies across seas. And then, they were able to stay on code and are still able to stay on code today, again, via all of these conferences that we're not invited to. We don't have Black military generals that's in these doors. And if they are in these doors, they don't know the full picture of military history. Although they're a general, some of this history you only get if you're literally combing through the files in order to get it. A military general probably don't have time to comb through the files. You don't have time to comb through the files with burned ends, notating that this set of files were burned. Just like that set of pension records that were burned when those veterans were fighting for their pensions at the end of, during Reconstruction. Those pension records that were burned. Hold on. Hold my mule. Hold my mule. Y'all remember this file set? There's a file set. Let me see, can I pull it up real quick? This file set. These petitions to Congress. Now, some of these just look old, frail at the end, but I can assure you, these were a part of the file sets that were burned. These pension records here. And the petition, these petitions to Congress. See? Petition to Congress. I'm going to read this. I think I've read this before, but I want y'all to see that the ends of these files were also a part of the burn pile. To the senators and representatives of Congress of the United States of America, whereas generation after generation of colored people served this country as slaves for 224 years, 44 years, 244 years. This was when military men were considered slaves. This is the late 1800s. During the Civil War, the military records are slave records. They're slave schedules. So military men were considered slaves, and they had to go around building the country. These are the men that build railroads. They had to build buildings, build structures. So here on this statement, 244 years and more. Okay, whereas the government owes the unknown and deceased colored soldiers a large sum of money, which is unclaimed, and whereas many of these soldiers have brothers, fathers, mothers, and sisters among us, we are destitute and starving. And whereas it is precedent established by the patriots of this country to relieve its distressed citizens both on land and sea. We were still on sea in the late 1800s. Again, this was before World War I, the bombing of Tulsa. And millions of our deceased people, besides those who still survived, worked as slaves for the development of the great resources and wealth of this country. And whereas we believe it just and right to grant the old ex-slaves a pension, therefore, we, the undersigned citizens of the United States of America, appeal to your honorable body to pass the Senate Bill number 1978, introduced February 6, 1896, by Senator Thurston of Nebraska, providing pensions for freedmen, etc. I want you to know that this was passed. And the surviving files were in the U.S. Pension Office. The reason why the Pension Office was housing these files is because this bill, or a version of this bill, passed in order to provide pensions. They all passed. They all passed. And there's another one that was a part of that file set. The ex-slave bill file set. And as you can see, the ends are frayed, but this was a part of that file set that ended up, and this one breaks down the ex-slave bill. Mind you, this is military. This is military. It breaks down how much money people could get per relative based on age. It's really the same. It's kind of a more extensive version of how pensions are paid out today. Like your children get it, your wife get it, but this one is more extensive. Your sister and your brother get it. If one person in your family had to go build this country, everybody in your family got a pension. And that was based on the fact that these black men were indigenous to the land and all of their resources were taken from them. So this was an ex-slave pension from 1894 that they wanted 400 million appropriated. And this was also after the Freedmen's Bureau, all of that money in the Freedmen's Bureau was stolen. Okay. And this was a bill that was, I think, coming out of Nashville and coming out of Kansas. In fact, a lot of people signed it, but it was coming out of, from the Tennessee senators. A lot of people were pushing for reparations. And this is housed at NARA, of course, and in the pension files here in America to this day. The U.S. Pension Office has the record. So, you know, a lot of the cave in Kansas is dedicated just to pension records. People who got pensions before World War I started. A lot of these people were murdered during World War I because, again, if one soldier went from the family, the whole family got paid. And as we know, you know, most Black Americans had people who went to war. Now, that's different from today. If your brother go to war, you don't get no check from your brother going to war. Even if your brother died during war, the records say if you can't find his child, give it to his grandchild. So the money was rotating in the Black community because we done took y'all oil fields, we done took your farms, we have taken your land. So at least we can do is cut you a reparatory check called a pension, because this is military related. You get the picture. You get the picture. Anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to come and talk to you all about. Wanted to expand this maritime conversation. It gets a lot deeper, believe it or not. But as we unpack this industry, I want to make sure that you understand the timeline of what happened. It's important that we understand the timeline of what happened. Hey guys, I'm gonna say Cook says thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Send me your guns and butter. I appreciate the support. Yes, please support the show. Click like. This is not a long show because I intend on coming on here every day. But if we are shadow banned every day, y'all know me. I might stop coming on. Who knows? Who knows? I might just stop coming on. Who knows? Yeah, a huge cave is holding the financial records. Yeah, the cave holds the financial records for purposes of climate control. So the climate is controlled a little better in the caves. That's why they're up under the ground. Like my papa said, train them dumb folks, and they took our jobs and made more money than us because they had the militaries in their country backing them. Our people did not know that it was a military operation. I want you to know this still happens today, where black men have to train people on the job, and then those same white guys that they train come and take the jobs. That has not stopped happening because enough fuss has not been made about that system, that systematic theft. If enough people make noise about that systematic theft, then they will have no choice but to stop it. That literally still happens today in every industry. Every industry. It happens in the military as well. So you'll have a person that'll jump rank over you, and they haven't put in half the work. They didn't even take the ASVAB. There's something going on online right now. I be following all these special forces guys on YouTube because they talk a lot. And I've never seen killers talk like this. But some of these guys, they didn't take no ASVAB. They be arguing with each other about who can get in what company. And one white guy was, what is his channel name? Scott, I can't think of his name right now. His channel name right now. But I was only attracted to his channel because he had a Indian head on his channel. But he had a live show, and it was people, special forces guys, arguing in his chat. They was arguing at a black guy, telling a black guy that you couldn't even be a part of our company. And I'm thinking to myself, well, is it segregated? Is the military still segregated? Because if the military is still segregated, then why not just bring back the buffaloes? I thought Truman stopped segregation. I thought Truman desegregated it. But I guess for the sake of special forces, it's still segregated. I want us to look at... Thank you, Marcus, for the super chat. He said, call me urgent. I got you. And also, thank you, Marcus sent me a super chat. Somebody else sent me a super chat. Christina, thank you for the super chat. I saw that yesterday. Marcus, I'll call you. Marcus, you're Navy, right? You're Navy? I know you got some tea for me. Anyway, I thought Truman desegregated everything where we can't operate in these separate entities. I also want us to look at this Prince Hall Revolutionary War situation as if Prince Hall and the 14 were special forces. What if they were a special force unit that was put into enemy lines, enemy territory, to be trained over there to overtake them? I'm thinking that's what happens more so than this story that was told. And I just hate the fact that all of this stuff isn't made public to the surviving families of these great men. I just hate that it's not a public thing. I really do. Transporter said I still can't search. You may be a part of a network that I blocked though, because I saw your IP address last night, and I unblocked you last night. The transporter, when I went on there, you were blocked last night, but I unblocked you last night. So you may have to refresh your cache on your computer, and maybe that'll work. But I did. You were blocked. But I unblocked you last night. While how to find these channels, what's hidden. I ain't gonna lie, I found them. Thank you for putting my cash up on his GCP. I appreciate that. I ain't gonna lie, I found these special forces guys. One, when I was trying to learn which firearms that would be comfortable with carrying every day. I was trying to learn how to build guns and all this kind of stuff to protect myself. And my ex-boyfriend put me on a lot of these channels. But also, an easy way to find them is type in Charlie Kirk. If you go to YouTube and type in Charlie Kirk, a lot of these white guys who are talking are special forces. Because unbeknownst to us, Charlie Kirk was working with a lot of special forces guys who were undercover. We didn't know that. I didn't know that until I started watching the thing, and some of these guys did not get paid, and then they came to the internet and started talking, and some of the guys got paid, and then these special forces guys start arguing back and forth with each other on YouTube during the Charlie Kirk saga. It's the weirdest thing, because who knew why would he be working with special forces, his little racist self? And then after these guys start arguing online, then they made Erica Kirk put her over education for the Air Force. And she had nothing to do with the military. Never took the ASVAB, none of that. Never did no push-ups, no HUT 234, no training, no nothing. And so that matches with some of the special forces guys who were on there bragging about they didn't even have to go through the same stuff that the other guys had to go through. They didn't have to take those tests and ASVABs and all that shit. They're just tough enough and all of this stuff where they didn't have to go. I didn't even know that was how the military roll. I didn't know it was about if I got certain pecs or if I got certain muscles, I can avoid taking the ASVAB test. I didn't know that. And these guys are saying which companies they work for, but if you're not military, it sounds like it's all jumbled together. So some of the stuff they say, it just kind of sounds all jumbled together. But people in the chat are definitely able to keep up with it. People who are veterans and so forth and so on. It's just like, type in Charlie Kirk. You'll see some of those channels show up. Paramount. Yeah, like his channel. He's one of the, I think I've seen his channel before. A lot of these guys are special forces. So again, a lot of white guys with their chest out started talking after the Charlie Kirk saga because some of them didn't get paid when he died. Now, I'm wondering, what would they need to get paid for? Paid for what? And then that young lady Candace put out that when Charlie Kirk was offed, there was a Green Beret brigade there at the school, spread amongst the crowd with burgundy shirts on. So who has the ability to dispatch special forces? And how they just dispatched all willy-nilly on my land? That's what about that. But when the children's missing, why aren't special forces dispatched to find the missing children? We can dispatch them for Charlie Kirk and all these issues, but what about all these missing children in America? And if it makes you feel better, it's not just missing black kids, it's also missing other races of kids here in America. Why ain't nobody dispatched special forces to find the children yet? That's what bothers me. Don't just deploy them to fly drones all over the place and do goofy ass shit like argue on YouTube. I don't want to see no killers arguing. I don't want to see that. But unfortunately, that we've been seeing that for almost a year now. Um. Anyway, that's why I'm starting to think more and more that we will need a black lineage based military here in America. I'm convinced. I'm convinced now more than ever, because nobody's going to save our children. Nobody is going to save our community from tyranny. Nobody. The Masons will also have to be activated in some kind of way, because the Masons have always been activated up until after a certain point. Anyway, guys, like I said, I want to keep these videos short. We're at an hour here. Somebody said they're selling kids on Vent. What is Vent? I sure hope not. But again, if somebody can say, well, they are possibly selling kids on this website, then why isn't Special Forces dispatched to handle that situation? That's my point. That's my whole point. That's my whole point. For those of you who saying you can't search, there was a entire network of people that were blocked because we don't allow people to search on U.S. lineage who have foreign IP addresses. And so there was a network that was blocked. Now, you may not have known that your IP address was foreign, but sometimes if you are with a VPN company, then they'll switch your VPN to a foreign IP address in order to mask your VPN. So that's how a lot of people got caught up in that. Yeah, if you just turned your VPN off in order to search, you definitely have to clear your cache. So once you clear your cache and refresh the screen, you should be able to search it. It's a lot of people. It's thousands of people on U.S. lineage, and I'm happy to know that only a few are having this issue with accessing the web, with accessing the actual files. But you cannot have a VPN turned on, and you cannot have a foreign IP address. So you will have to refresh your network, turn your VPN off, and refresh your cache. And so it's easy for me to kind of find you guys who are having issues. It's easy for me to deal with a few of you guys than to deal with thousands of you guys that are on there. So this is, like I said, I was able to find you pretty quickly last night because you gave me your name. I was able to find you and unblock you last night. Thank you for the super chat, Marcus. He said, I am angry, Janice. Why are you angry? Why are you angry, Marcus? Oh, well, if you're angry about this information, it's definitely a lot to be angry about. I will say that. But one angry man can shake the table, but you will need a lot of more people to shake the table with you. I think that we need some very high-ranking people to get a hold of these issues, especially the maritime issue, how we got blocked out of oil on our own land. The first and second gas station was a black man. And so they're going to give the credit to the first gas station being like a military, like a company that was controlled by the military. And the second gas station was owned by a black man. But that's a lie. That's a lie, because we control the oil industry. Of course, we control gas stations. Now, a lot of these old gas stations literally are still, we got gas stations that's in certain places, especially here in the South, that's been around since the 1800s. It's like an old building that has pure oil on it. Literally, you see these things all over the place. Don't nobody touch them. Don't nobody tear them down or nothing. They're just like artifacts above ground. Above ground artifacts everywhere. We just walk past them. We just drive past them. But a lot of them say pure oil. And they're scattered all around cities that used to be all black. They're scattered all around, little hick towns, just all over the South. All over the South. Yeah, don't use VPN or VPN software or have malware. Yes, in order to get on U.S. lineage, and I do that because people don't want Black Americans to have access to this level of files. And while you may think you could just go to NARA and find these same files, it's not that easy. We don't just use NARA's database. NARA database is one of the databases that's used on U.S. lineage. We have a myriad of different databases on U.S. lineage. And so I have to protect that. I have to, make sure that I hold the door open and hold the windows open so that you can go on there, and because it's not just military records. You got CIA records, you got genealogy records, you got any record, you got all the books, any book that you can imagine, all kind of land files, everything that you can imagine there. All the Department of Interior records, all of the Daughters of the American Revolution records are there, and they brag about having one of the largest archival stores in all of America, and which they do. And so because they have one of the largest archival stores in America, we also have their records as well. So this is something that nobody has ever even tried to do in the Black community, all while screaming they want reparations. I'm a solution-based person. So I do understand if we have a redress grievance, then we're going to have something to back it up. So, because, hey, nephew, that's what my thing was with making sure we had the records in order to back up our claims, in order to find out what our families were doing during the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, the World Wars, the Cold War. I want to make sure we had all of those records, and I want to make sure I continue going with this, because again, for those of you who are new, I was working on a records facility at one point. When I was working on the records facility, I was granted access to these records, but they were for my server. So you were supposed to be able to come into my facility, get on the computers, and look at the records from the computers inside of the facility, kind of like all archive facilities are today. The Georgia Archives is the same way. I was working on a facility like that, and I was giving access to the records. But what I did was worked with the developer in order to kind of split my server so that multiple people can have access, which is you all. So now you all have access to my server. So I have to make sure that this is safe, because if you all do anything, it will come back on me. So that's why I don't allow people to upload, kind of like you can upload on Ancestry. I don't allow people to upload files on U.S. lineage, because you could alter a record, then re-upload it, and then somehow it can get mixed in. I don't have time for all of that. That will cost way too much money for us to monitor an operation like that, where we're allowing people to upload into the system. So go on U.S. lineage, turn your VPN off before you join. Make sure you don't have a VPN on. Go and log in and download any kind of record. I have already paid for enough bandwidth for you to download the records. So make sure you go ahead and download it. Okay? Anyway, someone said, I hope you still have the ability to build it eventually. Well, I got stopped the first time, and it got a little bit discouraging. And it's very expensive, but I would love a U.S. lineage facility. It'll just be so cool. It'll just be so cool to have, but until I get there, we'll just do it like this for now. Okay. We'll just do it like this for now. Anyway, I hope you guys will continue to share this live. Did you hear about the decision on birthright citizenship? I really should have an after show. Yes, I did hear about the decision on birthright citizenship. I kind of knew they weren't going to be able to change it, and they did not have to change it. All they have to do is write a law for Foreigners. That's all. It's very simple. You don't change birthright citizenship because it had nothing to do with anybody but Black Americans. So why would you even want to change that in the first place instead of using a law that was already put into place? Like I pointed out here on live one time, for foreigners, all you have to do is pass the bill that was written for foreigners. Birthright citizenship has nothing to do with anybody but the ones who were considered Negroes, not Negroes that were taxed and Negroes that were not taxed. Indians not taxed and Negroes taxed. That's what birthright citizenship, that's who it was for. It's for Indians. And they keep saying babies of slaves, but why was people babies of slaves? They just are babies of random slaves. But if you go back and look at what happened today, one of the justices broke it down. They said Black Americans had no other country. This was their country. They wasn't from any other place. That's why this is for them. Now, I do like the fact that they did make that specification, because now that a Supreme Court justice has said it, all this rhetoric about y'all African, y'all from African, did you not hear what the Supreme Court justice said? Black Americans aren't from any other place. There was no other allegiance to any other place. They were from America, not any other place. They hammered that down over and over today in order to make the argument that birthright citizenship was strictly for us, because they thought they were going to win the case. But you can easily close these loopholes, like a lot of loopholes have been closed. You can close these loopholes by enacting other laws in order to close them. So yeah, so that's that. But anyway, I'm at 1 hour and 9 minutes. I'm about to get out of here. If you are late, please replay this. Put your questions in the chat. I'm actually looking at your questions in the chat, and come Friday, we'll be answering and talking about more in depth some of these questions that are in the comment section. So I'm actually reading this. I may not get a chance to respond because I'm putting the shows together and stuff and working and still taking clients every day. But that doesn't mean I don't see them. Anyway. Oh, you said the SCOTUS decision is why you're angry. Huh. Interesting. No, it's fine that they didn't end birthright citizenship. All they have to do is literally enact the law that's for foreigners and being born over here in American soil. Like, all they do is they just have to write a bill for them. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment has nothing to do with nobody else but us. That's for us. And I did like that some Supreme Court justices pointed that out. That's for Black folk. Black Americans, Negro, colored, darkies, Indians not taxed. They was throwing the word Indian around like pieces of candy. I loved it. Yeah, keep throwing that word around, because the Constitution only mentions one race, Indian. So that ought to tell you right there who this amendment right here is for. If the Constitution only mentions one race, then the Constitution is only about one race. Anyway, I gotta go. Share the live, y'all. Continue the conversations in the comment section. And I'll see y'all tomorrow, depending on how good these videos do. I'm gonna keep coming on here. Anyway, love y'all. Bye.